Hey everybody, today we're going to be learning how to paint a Necron warrior of the Nihilakh dynasty. Now this one's already painted, but I'm going to repaint it for this tutorial. So, grab your paints and your brushes, and let's get started. So, of course for a Necron warrior, we're going to need to paint the silver areas, which is all over him. We're going to use lead belcher. Always shake up your paint. Put my palette over here. Okay, so for brushes, if you're using Citadel, you could use a medium base brush. But for me, I'm just gonna be using this size 0 flat brush. So we're gonna take some lead belcher from the pot and put it on the palette. A little excess. Nothing to mention, even though this is a metallic paint, we do have to thin it down, but ever so slightly. Just a little bit. Perfect. Alright, onto the Necron. So, for here, we're just going to focus on the legs, pretty much everywhere, including the head, so right here. So, for any time, just to give it a base coat of lead belcher. Shoulder pads. Now, for those of you that don't know, in terms of lore, the Necrons were a humanoid race once, like a millennia ago, but they were enslaved by the Cetan shards, and they were turned into machines with their souls embedded to them, in them. And just right here on the blade, just for a little extra detail. If you're wondering what this is just this is the 7th edition Necrons. No, the 8th edition Necrons, so they used to have like this bright green plastic tube that's going inside of the Gauss flare. Alright, that's done. Okay, the black on the weapon is done, so we're going to move on to the green parts. So, for the green on the Necron warrior, we're going to paint the only thing that's really green is the tube right here on the Gauss flare, and the wire that goes right here. So, basically, all we're going to do is we're going to apply a base coat, since it's already a base coat. We're going to use a base coat of Wa flesh. But if you don't have Wa flesh, you can also use Caliban green, which is really good. So, shake up the paint. Okay. Take a little bit of Wa flesh from the pot like so. And put on your palette. More. There we go. If you have too much on your brush, you can just scrape the inside of your pot like this, so that way you can save the paint. There we go. Alright. A little water from the pot. Thin it down. A little more. Perfect. Alright. Onto the miniature. All we're going to do is we're going to paint this wire right here. So, using Wa flesh. And if you want, you can paint the tubing if you want to. But of course, you can just leave it however you like. And we're also going to paint this other red wire down here. Alright, that's the green base coat. Cleaning off my brush and drying it off. Okay, and always close your paint pots. Alright, let me check the silver. Alright, the silver is done. Now, we're going to apply our shade to the silver. So for this shade, we're going to use Nuln Oil. Keep in mind, this is the new formulation of Nuln Oil. You can, of course, use the old one if you like. So, shake up your washes. You can use whatever brush you like, but if you're using Citadel like me, I'm going to use a medium shade brush. So, get some Nolan oil from the pot and put on your palette. Not too much. Perfect. All right, so for this wash, all we're going to do is we're going to literally paint it all over where you see metal, which is everywhere on the body of the Necron. So, that includes everywhere. The shoulder pads for right now, rib cage, chest, back of the head, not the face yet, you'll see why in just a second. Arms. Just make sure wherever you see silver, you're shading it with Nolan oil. And also the legs. Alright, that's the wash applied. Alright, washing off my brush and drying it off. Okay, get this out of the way. Now, while we're waiting for our water and dry to wash, wash to dry, we're basically going to base coat another areas. So for this, we're going to start off with the gold on the miniature. This is the only Necron race with gold, and since it's gold, we're going to be using a base coat of Retributor armor. Sorry if the paint pot's a little messy, but that's from past use. Okay, we're going to take some Retributor armor, put it on the palette like so. I'm going to make sure to reach down to the bottom of your pot. Just a little bit, not too much. Perfect. Thin it down ever so slightly because it's a metallic paint. A little more. Perfect. Alright, and also make sure to get rid of excess on your brush. You can also use this on your palette as well. Alright, on to the Necron. All we're going to do is we're going to paint the glyph in the center of his chest and his faceplate. So, first we're going to start off on the chest. Be kind of careful with this. And we're going to focus on the faceplate. So, you can see the faceplate right here. Just leave the back of the head silver. Alright, that's the gold done. Okay, now, let me clean off my brush. Dry it off. Okay, very good. Alright, let me move this. Now, we're going to base coat the blue on the now we're going to base coat the blue on the miniature. For this, we're going to be using a base coat of Thousand Suns Blue. So, get my palette back over here, shake up the paint. Okay, so we're only going to use this on the shoulder pads for right now. We're going to use it on the face, but we're going to wait for that gold to dry first. So, I'm going to grab a smaller brush for this because I don't want to hit any of the other parts of the miniature. So, take some Thousand Suns Blue, put on your palette. And a little more. Thin it down just a little bit. Perfect. Okay, so all we're going to do is focus on the shoulder pads for right now. Or the shoulder plates. Make sure I hit a little bit of that wash that's still drying. And we're going to apply this nice and evenly. And here's what a lot of people miss. There's a little area right here where the shoulder pads meet right here, so you're going to have to paint those as well. I'm going over the shoulder, not on the shoulder. Make sure to paint the sides and trim of this, of the shoulder pads. Alright, that's the blue done for right now. Alright, wash out the brush. And drying it off. Okay, close your paint pot. So, all we're going to do now is we're going to shade the gold. So, let me check to see if my gold is dry. Still needs a couple of seconds. Okay, so while we're doing that, our wire is dry, so we're going to highlight our wire. So, for this, we're going to be using a base coat, a layer of Cyberite green. Your green could be, of course, be very, very brighter, but I'm just using this for right now with the paints that I have. So, for here, you're just going to layer where it would highlight the wire. So, right about right here on the front. Okay, that's the wire highlighted. Okay, wash out the brush and just drying it off. Okay. Okay, so close your paint pot. Okay, so now we're going to highlight the blue. For this, we're going to be using a layer of Araman blue. And this is a battle ready video, so usually you wouldn't do edge highlighting, but it helps define like where's the blue, like the blue. So grab some Araman blue, put on the palette, thin it down a little bit, and there we go. Okay, so for this, we're going to highlight the edges of the shoulder pads. So maybe a little difficult at first, but just use the edge of the brush and go just like that, very gently across and around the edges. Okay, that's the blue highlighted. Okay, with our gold now dry, we can wash it. So let me just wash off my brush and just drying it off. And since the faceplate is not really a bit too big of an area, we're going to use a smaller brush. We're going to use this flat brush right here. So for the gold, all we're going to use is Reikland Flesh Shade. So you could of course use Agrax Earthshade, but I prefer the Reikland Flesh Shade because it adds a little warmth to the gold. Okay, so wash is ready. And we're going to apply it straight from the pot. Just make sure we don't overload our brush. There we go. Now, onto the miniature. All we're going to do is shade the gold right here on the chest. And also right here on the faceplate. Just grab a little more. Careful, you don't have any flakes on there. Okay, that's the gold shaded. Alright, so now, wash off my brush and just make sure I dry it off. Now, to complete the Necron, all we're going to do, complete this warrior, all we're going to do is we're going to paint that stripe that you would see on the top of the head of a nihilakh Necron. So, for this, we're going to return back to Thousand Suns blue, and this is a freehand technique, so you're going to have to thin it down quite a bit. So right here, onto the palette, and just thin it down a lot. A little more than usual. Might seem weird, but it'll become apparent in just a second. A little more. Perfect. Okay, so you're going to have to be as neat as possible here. So all we're going to do is we're going to paint a straight line from the skull, from the top of the brow all the way up. So right here, it's going to be a little difficult, but I'm going to turn it upside down so you can see it. So all we're going to do is we're going to do it like this. Focus on the center of where your line is, where your line's going to start, and then you just paint. Okay, that's our stripe done. Alright, that completes the Necron paint scheme in terms of the Nihilakh dynasty. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy painting your Necrons. Bye-bye, and goodbye.